Okay, so that's a horrible intro. I need to get used to this. So you may have already heard the New York Times broke this story. Trump campaign aides had repeated contact with Russian intelligence. This, in my opinion, is a huge story. They even have multiple writers, editors on this thing. So let's go into it as quick as we can. So phone records and intercepted calls show that members of Donald J. Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and other Trump associates had repeated contacts with senior Russian intelligence officials in the year before the election. So 2015 is what we're talking about here, according to 4 current and former American officials. American law enforcement and intelligence agencies intercepted the communications around the same time they were discovering evidence that Russia was trying to disrupt the presidential election by hacking into the Democratic National Committee. Note, still unproven, still nothing but a report signed by 17 intelligence agencies. They've still not showed it any kind of proof or like I guess a metadata trail as WikiLeaks does to prove that its stuff is legit. So nothing there. Sorry. I was putting on some chapstick. The intelligence agencies then sought to learn whether the Trump campaign was colluding with the Russians on the hacking or other efforts to influence the election. As we know, they think that they influenced the election by hacking into the Democratic Party and releasing these emails that are not disputed, legitimate emails, and people felt a certain way about these emails because they realized just how one-sided and corrupt this election was, and that they may have voted for the other guy in retaliation is the real thing. But they just point to Russia. Hillary, you're fine. Just go be in the woods or wherever wherever she does. Who knows? Vacation is probably what she needs. The officials interviewed in recent weeks said that so far they had seen no evidence of such cooperation. So officials interviewed in recent weeks said that they had seen no evidence of such cooperation. But the intercepts alarmed American intelligence and law enforcement agencies, in part because of the amount of contact that was occurring while Mr. Trump was speaking glowingly about the Russian president, Vladimir V. Putin. So let's look at him speaking glowingly, what they link to here. And this is what he says. I think it's inarguable that Vladimir Putin has been a stronger leader in his country than Barack Obama has been in his country. That is, he says it's inarguable. I say that's an arguable point. I mean, there's many factors of what a strong leader is, like saying what is the best. Who knows what the best thing is? But I can show you a few facts about Mr. Putin here. Here's the NATO encroachment over the years, 49 to 2009. You can see 2009, there's just a little bit more over here. Part of the reason that they are trying to go for the Crimea port. And this is an old Guardian article from 2015, around the time when he would have been colluding with the Trump campaign. I'm not sure exactly in 2015 when Trump announced he was running. But they're kind of soft on him when it comes to this. The Guardian is. Vladimir Putin told the BBC that Russia was part of European culture and that he would not rule out the possibility of joining NATO. I cannot imagine my own country in isolation from Europe and what we have often called the civilized world. And so it goes into that. Let me go into a very specific graph here. There's a winning picture. A half-naked Putin riding a horse in the mountains. He could use a little bit toning up, I would say, but he's not grossly obese or anything like that either. So I guess that's good. He's fitter than Trump, that's for sure. I don't know if he's as fit as Obama. Obama could shoot some hoops, what it seemed like. So Russia's GDP. So he took over in 2000. It doesn't go back that far, but 2006, billions of dollars. Look at this GDP growth. Now, almost all of this has to do with oil, and I think a lot of that oil has to is able to get pulled out of the ground in Siberia due to new techniques, discovery and extraction, and that's part of the reason they're able to grow their economy so much. But this is after the financial crisis when things really took a hit. But it was saying that he did pretty good before that. He broke up his political foes' oil company. So this is in the point that Trump was making, that is Putin a good leader? Is it even arguable? Because I think Trump is saying that it's inarguable that he's a good leader. And I'm sure, at least right now, the New York Times thinks that it's inarguable that he's not a good leader or not a strong leader, because they obviously have a problem with how he says it, because it's speaking glowingly. So the glowingly thing he said is that he was a stronger leader than Barack Obama. That's a debatable thing. That doesn't mean you're a horrible person. I've been in arguments where I've tried to find hardcore stuff against Putin, but it's really difficult. You have the Patriot Ring Gate, where he took Bill Belichick's 4th Super Bowl ring and didn't give it back, and so Bill Belichick was going to ask Trump if he could get it back for him. But they probably won't ever get to meet in person because the CIA is in a war, a deep state war, and there's people that want to continue business as usual, and a lot of this has to do with Saudi interests, and of course Russia is helping the Assad regime because they wanted to build a different pipeline, and apparently Qatar wanted to buy some other pipeline, but that's irrelevant right now. So they're saying he's speaking glowingly about it, and then Mike Pence said that defended Mr. Trump, echoing his praise. Doesn't say what he said, but that's how you do it. And
I have a real problem
Uh-oh.
when Hillary Clinton, who gives open access to a phony server, is allowed to get these briefings. How does Hillary Clinton get a national security briefing when she's been probably hacked, when so much of her information, the director of
True.
the FBI, said it was essentially negligent? But it would be interesting
True.
to see. I will tell you this.
They did
Russia,
put
if you're
criminal activity
listening,
on our FBI
I
website.
hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably
okay.
be rewarded mightily by our press.
Yeah,
I have nothing.
Okay, what he's saying is she broke the law, and then she attempted to delete all the evidence. Not only that, she sent it to a third party to do it, like a non-governmental agencies, to wipe her hard drives, and then she smashed her Blackberries with hammers. That is criminal. She did not want them to have the emails, because what they found out from just the treasure trove of emails that they got, in those emails alone, there was, I think, somewhere, I don't want to tell you wrong, but minimum probably 8 top secret emails in there, and that is well against the law. That is well deserving of jail time according to the law. And so he's just saying, like, I hope you can find those 33 emails that she deleted so she wouldn't get caught for corruption, because it's obvious corruption. So apparently that's New York Times finds that to be a problem. Of course it's a problem. It's a problem for them. It's a problem for their friends. It's a problem for globalists. So at one point last summer, Mr. Trump said at a campaign event that he hoped Russian intelligence services had stolen Hillary Clinton's emails and would make them public. Yeah, the emails that she deleted. They need to put this in there because that context provides his whole reasoning for it. For even saying something like that. He's not like, oh, find those emails so it can help me in the campaign. You know what? Maybe he is. Maybe he is, because obviously that would help him in the campaign. But I genuinely believe that he believes that she's a criminal and that she was hiding criminal things and deleted the emails. And so if anyone could get a hold of those emails, maybe Russia. Let's listen again. I don't want to.
Hillary Clinton, who gives open access to a phony server, is allowed to get these briefings. How does Hillary Clinton get a national security briefing when she's been probably hacked?
So she's compromised. So how does she?
When
get a
so much
hearing?
of her information, the director of the FBI said it was essentially negligent. But it would be interesting to see. I will tell you this.
I wonder what's in between
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find. You see, I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, essentially negligent. But it would be interesting to see. I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably...
Why would you say that if you're colluding with Russia? Russia, if you're listening, of course they're listening. Of course they're watching everything. They need to know what's going on with who's going to be the next president, because during this time period right now, they're getting hit with massive sanctions for the invasion of Crimea. And then when they responded with their own sanctions, they got hurt even more in their economy. So let's take this to YouTube. And Trump press conference. There we go.
The Honda President's Day sales event is here. With great
luck finding this. 57 minutes.
to bring jobs back to this country so that people...
Let's see if we can find it.
I said thank you very much to... This is a pass-through. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see him.
It almost sounded like he was talking about emails, didn't it?
Want to, save her. That a person in our government, Katie, would delete or get rid of 33,000 emails. That gives me a big problem. After she gets a subpoena, she gets subpoenaed, and she gets rid of 33,000 emails. That gives me a problem. Now, if Russia...
Why aren't they playing any of that stuff?
China or any other country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them.
China, Russia, or China. Did you hear that? Did you guys just hear that? Because I just heard that. He said Russia or China.
After she gets a subpoena.
China.
She gets subpoenaed, and she gets rid of 33,000 emails. That gives me a problem. Now, if Russia or China
or any other motherfucking country is what
country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them.
Ooh, New York Times, you about to get it, boy. You about to get it. You about to get it, son.
Yeah.
Oh, just wrecked your narrative, son. It feels so good.
It's the most ridiculous conversation. Good. He never had the conversation. Don Jr. told me never. Let me just tell you. Let me save you a lot of boredom.
Yeah, save us some boredom. What do you got? What do you got for us?
Mike Pence will play a big role, but I just want to tell you about John Kasich.
Okay.
I never spoke to him about being vice president.
So let's.
If Russia or China.
Let's see if we can find the Russia thing.
To interfere, to hack into a system.
To hack into a system.
That's up to the president. Let the president talk to him. Look, here's the problem. Here's the problem, Katie. Katie, here's the problem. Very simple.
Katie,
he has no respect.
No respect, I tell you. No respect at all.
Well, they probably have him. I'd like to have him released. No, gives me no pause. If they have him, they have him.
She doesn't want... That doesn't give you pause? That someone would release these emails? Don't you know that we're colluding with Hillary Clinton and have been since the Democratic primaries?
Have them. We might as well find. Hey, you know what gives me more pause?
What?
That a person in our government, crooked Hillary Clinton.
Crooked
Here's
Hillary. That's his name. Let's see if we can find the Russia thing.
Community know what's going on, whether it's in a mosque or whether it's in the community. and they have to report these people. When you look at San Bernardino, many people knew what was going on. They had bombs lying all over the floor. They had bombs on the floor. I mean, this isn't, you walk into somebody's house, there are bombs laying on the floor. I think there's a problem there, right? You got to report them.
He is telling the truth.
And by the
on
way,
that.
David
It
Hinckley
is kind of funny, but
should not have been freed, okay?
Who?
David Hinckley was just released. I think that's John Hinckley. I think that John Hinckley, excuse me, John Hinckley should not have been freed. I just heard about it 2
the guy who
seconds.
shot Reagan, I believe.
In my opinion.
I should know that.
Do you have any qualms about asking a foreign government, Russia, China, anybody, to interfere, to hack into the system of anybody's?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
up
you
to the
attempted
president. Let the
assassinate
president
Reagan.
talk to him. Look, here's the problem. Here's the problem, Katie. Katie, here's the problem.
Of course he feels that way, because there's probably plenty of people gunning for him, people inside the government, I'm sure. But, there's too many eyes right now. Like, too many eyes everywhere. Eyes like us, people like us. So, this is one of the things used against Trump, and it seems like even that's kind of bullshit. What did they cut in here? They cut the part where he says Russia or China or any other country. So the officials said the intercepted communications were not limited to Trump campaign officials and included other associates of Mr. Trump. On the Russian side, the contacts also included members of the government outside of the intelligence services, they said. Okay. Interesting. Members of the government outside the so regular, I guess, parliamentary type politicians, I imagine. All of the current and former officials spoke on the condition of anonymity because the continuing investigation is classified. Current and Russian officials? So that means they're having their own investigation? Why would they be having their own investigation, which means coming down from Putin if Putin is colluding with Trump? Or maybe it's just a fake investigation. Make it look like they're serious about it too, just like Trump has a fake investigation because he doesn't really care about Russian hacking. I'm sure he doesn't care about Russian hacking. What we do know is the Russians did not hack the election machines, which is a narrative that they did try to put out for a little bit. And then they hacked the emails, and that's what now they might have had these both narratives at the same time, seeing which one would stick. This other one sticks a little bit better, even though there's, it's sticky. It's nasty because it's not verified information, and they're parroting it as if it is. The officials said that one of the advisors picked up on calls was Paul Manafort's campaign chairman for several months and had worked as a political consultant in Ukraine. So a guy who was campaign chairman for several months last year, in 2016, I guess. Call logs and intercepted communications are part of a larger trove of information that the FBI is sifting through. This investigates links between Mr. Trump's associate and the Russian government. Remember when they were saying that the FBI isn't looking at Trump and the Putin thing? Remember when they were trying to demonize the FBI and Comey and say that they're working for Trump and they're working against Hillary, and so much of this bullshit infighting. And then all of a sudden you love the alphabets when they're working for you. You love them then. Of course. Who doesn't love someone that's confirming your own bias? I do too. I'm trying to have as little bias as possible. It's hard, and granted, don't think that I'm a major Trump supporter. I'm against all this lying because I want to know what the fuck he's actually doing, and they are trying to fuck that up with their own narrative. They're trying to mix what he's actually doing with what they want him to be doing to make their narrative right, and then also making some shit up or doing just real faulty reporting in between, like this. Okay, so Mr. Manafort, who has not been charged with any crimes, dismissed the official's accounts and telephone interview. This is absurd, he said. I have no idea what this is referring to. I've never knowingly spoken to Russian intelligence officers, and I've never been involved with anything to do with the Russian government or the Putin administration or any other issues under investigation. And so he was in the Ukraine, this guy, a political consultant in Ukraine. The Ukraine is technically in a war with Russia, over Crimea. Like, if you watch Vice, like Ukraine and Russia, now there's Russian-friendly Ukrainian politicians. Of course, he could have been part of that, but the reigning government at the time was anti-Russia, or they wouldn't have been fighting Russia. So I can see why you say this is absurd. And I'm not saying that he's innocent either. He could be guilty, you know. Several of Trump's associates have done business in Russia. And as you know, Russia is big business. Their GDP is heavy. They are the main exporter of oil in that region. They're exporting it to everybody. And Britain and Europe hates that they're so dependent on Russia. That's part of the reason that they want to destabilize. Probably part of this globalist thing. You know, Merkel is head of, she's not head, but she's kind of running the EU in a way through her direction, her leadership, and people are following suit. And the people that don't want to follow suit leave, like Brexit. And Hillary said her favorite politician is Merkel, and it's no. It's not conspiracy to say that the EU is globalist, that Hillary is globalist, that they're trying to create some sort of globalist, you know, empire. If you want to call it the UN, it could be a number of different things. There's no reason to speculate on what you think the future globalist empire will be, if it will even be. So. But you have these people that are dependent on Russia, and then you have Hillary in there saying she's going to put in a no-fly zone, even though Obama is against it, her top generals are against it, everybody is against it, but she's going to still do this no-fly zone, and she's going to treat cyber attacks as an act of war and respond to them with real military force. These are things that she said she was going to do. So it works out really well for them, you know. We would love to destabilize Russia. Get some of that cheap oil, I guess. Maybe y'all know how that works better than me. So, a report from the American intelligence agencies that was made public in January concluded the Russian government had intervened in the election in part to help Mr. Trump, but did not address whether members of the Trump campaign had participated. The intercepted calls are different from the wiretap conversations last year between Flynn, the guy who's they've removed, and probably rightfully so. You know, that is a conflict of interest. But if you don't think that Hillary Clinton wasn't talking to multiple heads of state and probably other intelligence agencies, you're probably kidding yourself too. You are definitely kidding yourself too. So Mr. Trump's former national security advisor and Sergei Kislyak is the ambassador in those calls, which led to this resignation. The two men discussed sanctions. Right, and those sanctions was absolutely hurting the economy. Not only was Russia, was Hillary going to keep the sanctions, but Hillary wanted to go to war with Russia, or she wanted to provoke them into a war or some kind of outcome. Syria was stalling. That was her baby, and it was not. So was Libya, and it was not working out because Russia got into it, because we were not able to properly give the rebels what they needed. The Free Syrian Army broke up and were taken over by ISIS, al-Nusra, and al-Qaeda. And yet we still technically support them, and that's why. How can you go after ISIS when ISIS is also fighting the people that you want out of power so you can help your Saudi Arabian and Qatari friends? Is something to ask Hillary Clinton. So, but the cases are part of the American intelligence law enforcement agency's routine electronic surveillance of the communications of foreign officials. So it's just routine surveillance. So I missed a little thing up here, but sometimes countries like Russia and Ukraine where spy service is deeply embedded, law enforcement officials did not say to what extent the contacts might have been. About business. Okay. Nothing. I don't see anything crazy with that. And this guy kind of looked like Nigel Farage. He's got a Farage like. They might be brothers from another mother. The FBI declined to comment. The White House also declined to comment. But early in the day, Sean Spicer stood by Mr. Trump's previous comments that nobody from his campaign had contact There's nothing that would conclude me that did they write that right? Did he say that right? That anything different has changed with respect to that time period. 2 days after the election, the deputy Russian foreign minister said there were contacts during the campaign between Russian officials and Mr. Trump's team. I don't think this is illegal, and I'm guaranteed that Hillary had contact with foreign ministers and probably other intelligence people. She doesn't have to have direct contact with intelligence people. She has political power. She has a seat at the table, and she was next in line. And there was people in there that'll do this stuff for her. She doesn't have to do it. That's part of the advantage that she had. This is part of the reason she was so confident. The normal rules do not apply to her. Even when the corruption is obvious, blatant, in your face, they still don't apply to her. She's too big to fail. That's all it is. Obviously, we know most of the people from his entourage. Mr. Ryabkov, Mr. Rybakov told Russia's Interfax news agency. Trump transition team denied Mr. Rybakov's statement. This is not accurate, Hope Hicks, spokeswoman for Mr. Trump, said. The NSA, which monitors the communications of foreign intelligence services, and you and me, initially captured the calls between Mr. Trump's associates and the Russians as part of routine foreign surveillance. Yeah, you're probably spying on everybody. Yeah, of course, it is routine now. It's not a private world anymore. After that, the FBI asked the NSA to collect as much information as possible about the Russian operatives and to search through troves of previous intercepted communications that have not been analyzed. So I guess they've been looking through this for months. All the men have strongly denied they had any improper contacts with the Russians. FBI is also trying to assess the credibility of the information contained in a dossier that was given the Bureau last year by a former British intelligence office. You know where this is going. This is the P gate, the Golden Showers gate. Contained a raft of allegations, a broad conspiracy between Mr. Trump's associates and the Russian government. So now they're saying there's truth to that dossier, so that must mean he also likes golden showers. He may be a germaphobe, but he's probably a freak. Such a freak. It also included unsubstantiated claims that the Russians had embarrassing. You couldn't hold yourself together. You couldn't not publish that, could you, NY Times? You couldn't mention what it is Hillary did or what it was Trump was responding to up there, but you can allude to Golden Showers Gate. That's totally fine. That's grade A reporting. Totally not biased, guys. And it's okay to have bias, but you have to be upfront about the bias. Fox News, we know their angle. We know Fox News is biased. New York Times, CNN, they try to act like they have journalistic credibility and that they are unbiased. And this is just not the case. And this is why I'm ripping them a new one right now. The FBI has spent, or just analyzing, we've ripped them a little bit. I'm ripping my time right here. Getting hungry. FBI has spent several months investigating the leads in the dossier, but is yet to confirm any of its most explosive claims. They haven't confirmed any. With all this research they've been doing, they haven't confirmed any of its most explosive claims. You just said you're alluding. Okay, they're trying to assess the credibility, but that was saying that contained a raft alleged broad conspiracy between Mr. Trump's associates and the Russian government. That is what this whole article is about. And then they're saying they've yet to confirm any of its most explosive claims. Whichever ones they are, that's completely subjective. This reporting is pardon my French, it's trash. This is not good reporting. It looks like 3 people worked on it. So, put this one in. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you remember this? They probably have like a Microsoft Word document with just like shit on Trump, like shit to remember on Trump, where they just like they just copy and paste that shit in there and just put it in every fucking article just so you get the point how evil and corrupt Trump is, and then completely negate any information about Hillary being corrupt, even though it's the most obvious thing in the world, because the whole point of this is Russian hacking and hacking the DNC and the proof of the corruption in there. But they won't say that the emails, that they hacked the emails which proved corruption and tanked her campaign. They don't want to say that. They don't want to say that. Why would they? Oh, man. So we're almost done here. So senior FBI officials believe that the former British intelligence officer 00 Ho, who compiled the dossier, Christopher Steele, Dick Steele, has a credible track record. And he briefed investigators last year about how he obtained the information. One American law enforcement official said that FBI agents had made contact with some of Mr. Steele's sources. Okay, one American law enforcement, and this has been widely disputed that he has a credible track record. I'm not going to go into that part right now. This is getting long enough. The agency's investigation of Mr. Manafort began last spring as an outgrowth of criminal investigation into his work for a pro-Russian political party in Ukraine. Okay, so there we go with there is a pro-Russian sect of the government in Ukraine, and so maybe he was working with them. And for the country's former president, Viktor F. Yanukovych, it is focused on why he was in such close contact with Russian and Ukrainian officials. First, just pro-Russian, okay? If he worked for pro-Russian, let's just, at least to be valiant reporters, see what side Viktor Yanukovych is, and if he is pro-Russian or pro-independent Ukraine. So let's see. I'm just going to look for Crimea River. 19. Shows up 19. Crimean Naval Base. The Russian lease. Okay, so Yanukovych and Dmitry Medvedev, the Russian president, the puppet head president. We all know Putin's the president, signed the 2010 Ukrainian-Russian naval base for natural gas treaty, so whereby Russian lease on naval facilities would be extended beyond 2017 by 25 years. So basically, you give us gas, we give you base. You give us gas, we give you base. Okay. So that this good, it was proved by both the Russian and Ukrainian parliaments in 2010. In 2010, Yanukovych stated he did not rule out the possibility of holding a referendum on the stationing of Russian Black Sea Fleet in Ukraine. So he didn't rule out after necessary legislative framework is adopted for this in future. He did plan to hold plebiscites also. They accused him of selling out national interests. So, somewhat pro-Russian here. Exchange. So he wanted to give Russian Navy lease so they could get cheaper natural gas to help economy. Only way out of holding the state budget deficit down, as requested by the International Monetary Fund, while protecting pensioners and minimum wages, was to extend the lease. So this was requested by the International Monetary Fund. And we're pretty friendly with them, aren't they? I think Hillary's pretty friendly with them too. Probably. I don't want to speculate. I'm not the New York Times. 189 countries. Headquarters, Washington, D.C. Probably no, weird stuff in there, but we're not going to go into that. So, we'll say he's somewhat, so we can give him that. He's probably somewhat pro-Russian. It sounds like he's pro their country moving forward, and Russian having a naval base in Crimea, and peacefully. Why is that a bad thing? Why is that a bad thing? Oh, I want to show you this too, Guardian. So one of the negative things about people put about Russia and why they're so bad, why they need to be stopped, is that they are so corrupt, right? They gave all that money for Sochi, and the shit was like, falling apart, it was obvious corruption. Obvious corruption. I am not defending that at all. Sochi was ridiculous. Not near as ridiculous as Rio and what's happening there right now because of the fucking Olympics. But there's a great chart in here that I'm going to show you. Corruption Perception Index. So, okay, on a scale of 0 is highly corrupt, 100 is very clean, Denmark is very clean, Russia's 27, Nigeria's 27. So it's pretty low. It's pretty low on there. How they measure corruption, maybe in I guess things that have been brought to people's attention. So the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project also named Putin its Person of the Year. Hey, you know who else named him Person of the Year? Freaking Time magazine. I ain't even kidding. I'm about to show y'all. Okay, well, it's freezing up. So just trust me. And so let's go back. Let's finish this article here. So good on them for that. Good on New York Times for that. See, I can be even and unbiased in my reporting. Why can't you, New York Times? Yeah. So the Bureau did not have enough evidence to obtain a warrant for a wiretap of Mr. Manafort's communications. They did not have enough evidence to obtain a warrant, but had the NSA scrutinize the communications of Ukrainian officials he had met. They're proceeding at the same time that separate investigations of Russian interference in the election are gaining momentum on Capitol Hill. Those investigations by the House and Senate Intelligence Committees are examining not only the Russian hacking, but also any contacts Mr. Trump's team had with Russian officials. So it sounds like they weren't actually recording the phone calls. The Bureau did not have enough evidence to obtain a warrant for wiretap Mr. Manafort's communications, but it had the NSA scrutinize the communications of Ukrainian officials. On Tuesday, top Republican lawmakers said that Mr. Flynn should be one focus of the investigation, that he should be called to testify before Congress. Senator Mark Warner, I agree, he should. I'm sure he has some wonderful things to say. This guy was kicked out because he was a critic of Obama's policies in the Middle East. He thought he was being soft on ISIS, which he was because he needed them for Hillary's game in Syria. Let's be honest here. Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, said the news about Mr. Flynn underscored how many questions still remain unanswered to the American people. And you're right, there are a lot of questions unanswered, but thankfully a lot of those got answered in those emails. Not all, not all the emails, obviously. Some of them got away from us. Imagine if we had all of them. Hey, if you're listening, China or Russia or any other country, release those things. Still hasn't happened yet. And Mr. Warner said Mr. Flynn's resignation would not stop the committee from continuing to investigate General Flynn or any other campaign official who may have had inappropriate and improper contacts. Okay, so they misstated. They made a correction. That's good. And then you have Adam Goldman and Matthew Rosenberg contributed reporting. So you have literally 5 people put this together, which is why it's such a goddamn mess, in my opinion. But it could be good. It could be good to some people. So I haven't seen a sentence that's anything highly damning that Twitter is all about Trump impeachment party because of these two pieces, because of Michael Flynn and because of what just the New York Times just released. And look, they're getting all excited. They're like, okay, look, all these, we'll eventually get all these people out or something. Her arriving to the Trump impeachment party. Yeah, okay. Even if we got rid of this demon, we'd be stuck with Pence and then Paul Ryan. Exactly. Exactly, you idiot. Do you really want a conservative Christian in the White House, or do you want someone who's playing conservative Christian? Someone who actually probably does care about the rights of LGBT people, because historically he has done nothing but that. There's no proof that he has any problems with gay people at all. It's funny because he's friends with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon would probably power slam this motherfucker right here. Yeah, when you want to show up to the party, you remember Pence would be president. Exactly. Exactly. What is wrong with you people? What is wrong with you people? They're just reading headlines. They're not looking into this stuff. They're not investing in it. Maybe I'll put together a shorter report tomorrow, but you kind of see right there, they're not being fully honest with a lot of this stuff. They are being honest about, they show that members had contact with senior Russian intelligence officials. They're not saying that Trump had contact with senior Russian intelligence officials or that he knew about this. And then they're making it seem like he was colluding with them when we showed you that no, they deliberately, the New York Times deliberately took this out of context. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And I think I should tweet the New York Times. Let's do that. Let's find you. New York Times. New York Times, there he is. We're gonna go to New York, right? Okay, and then we're gonna let's tweet. Myth busting. Use guys right now in video. Will tweet you later. Okay. Boom. Tweet. We tweeted. Okay, guys. So I'll see you on the next one, or hear you on the next one, if anyone's even listening. I'm just gonna keep making videos. So I hope you're listening. If not, I'm still going to make videos. Okay, guys. Have a good one. Peace.